Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. As promised, today's podcast is your complete 8-step buyer system. Now, this buyer system is part of the Ethical Real Estate Professional designation. What we've done is we've created 8 distinct steps to formalize and systematize your system when working with buyers. And this should all be very self-evident as we go through these steps that are all, explained in a very logical way and in an order that makes complete sense. But it's very important that you don't skip any of these steps, and we're going to explain along the way of why we have sequenced these in the order in which we have. And remember, today's podcast is sponsored by Ethical Real Estate Professional. This is going to be the next level in the real estate industry. And if you're interested in learning more, just simply text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372, or if you'd like to pop over and actually check out the site that we've created. It's called ethicalrealestateprofessional.com, and Ethical Real Estate Professional is going to be something that all of you absolutely want to know about. The launch event, where we're going to be doing a webinar sometime in the near future, is going to be available only to those of you who have texted the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372, so make sure you do that right away.
All right, and since there's going to be a full 8-step system, how shall they find the notes?
I'll tell them when we're on point number 3, just to keep them spellbound.
Okay, but wait, there's more. Okay, your 8-step buyer system. Now that you are required to operate at a higher level of professionalism on the buyer side, how will you proceed? Do you have systems in place, or are you still doing different things for different people, flying by the seat of your pants, or even worse, doing nothing because the confusion of today's market is paralyzing you? It's time to systematize the buyer side of your real estate practice. The goal for you is to consistently work with well-qualified, motivated, and committed buyers who have signed your buyer agency contract and are ready to find a home with you.
Now, this is complete juxtaposition to how many agents for, really the last 100 years have been working with buyers. So let me, set this up. If you've read our best-selling book, Harris Rules, it's available everywhere, Amazon, bookstores, everywhere. You'll know that, it really focuses a lot, frankly, on how to teach you guys to be powerful listing agents. The listing side of the business was a skills-based business, and, where you have to know what to say, how to say it. You had to be systematized. Otherwise, too many things fell between the cracks. And the buyer side of the business has traditionally been more of a social part of the business, or really more of a, the one way of thinking of it as the listing side of the business, mental labor, because it takes a lot of skills. And working with buyers is a lot of physical labor because it took a lot of time and a lot of patience, frankly, in a lot of cases, right? I know there's more it's more to it than that, but the essence of it was being a listing agent definitely required more skills, definitely required knowing how to overcome objections, more mindset, heavy lifting, and things of that nature. Well, guess what? Now with a new reality with regards to the buyer agent commission sharing lawsuit settlements, the buyer side of the business now not only requires physical labor, but now also requires mental labor, if not more mental labor than working with sellers. And that's the fortunate truth if you're willing to actually, not fight in your head or emotionally with the new reality that you have to have exclusives signed. So this is going to take you through the process, and I want you to formalize your approach to working with buyers and expand your thinking and how this is going to be advantageous to you. Because look, the fact is that buyers are the biggest black hole of time that there ever was, that and really a lot of marketing stuff. But when you're working with customers, what we're going to do on this podcast and what we're teaching you in Ethical Real Estate Professional is how to actually, frankly, be a heck of a lot more selective and when working with buyers. So you're actually working with buyers that are going to transact, opposed to what many of you are doing, which is just looking with a lot of people that maybe someday will buy from somebody. So the first step in the 8-step home buying process of the system is generate the lead.
Generate the lead in the first place. So your action step is assess where your buyer leads currently come from. Mostly referrals, the internet, social media, open houses, or elsewhere. Determine what you're spending per lead and evaluate your return on investment. Are your lead sources efficient, or is it time to diversify? And your pro tip here is, of course, invest in tracking tools or CRMs or even paper and pen to measure your lead efficiency and to shift towards higher quality but lower cost lead sources.
And of course, an Ethical Real Estate Professional, we give you, it's like 25 mostly free ways to generate buyer leads, but I'll fast track your learning on that one. Take a listing, because then you have to beat the buyers off the stick.
Yes,
I mean,
number one.
That's the truth. All right, point number 2.
Furiously fast lead follow-up. Your action step is, if the lead comes in from voicemail, email, text, social media, or referral, follow up as soon as possible.
Call them. Don't
Call
just
them.
call
Well,
them.
Answer the phone in the first place is better.
Ideally.
Yes, but prioritize a voice call, then secure a face-to-face Zoom or face-to-face or Zoom meeting for your buyer presentation, which we'll get to in a minute. Remember, pro tip, speed is critical. Leads that are followed up with immediately by you answering the phone in the first place, or if they happen to go to voicemail because you're with another client or asleep or something, follow up, we say within 1 minute, but no more than 5 minutes. They're way more likely to convert when you answer their question at the time they have it. And remember, when you're doing that furiously fast follow-up, use the scripts that are included in Ethical Real Estate Professional.
And that is point number 3. Pre-qualify your buyer leads. And our pre-qualification script, which is included in Ethical Real Estate Professional, is a script, but really what it is a questionnaire. And for example,
and these are not all the questions, but these are straight out of the script. Are they selling a current home? Which home in the area do you plan on selling? Are they working with another agent? What's their financing situation? Are they cash, mortgage, pre-approved, or loan committed? What's their maximum budget? What's their motivation for wanting to buy now? What's their ideal timeline? Another pro tip is the goal is to uncover if they're serious and ready to act. Pre-qualifying filters out the tire kickers and helps you focus on serious buyers.
That's right. And really, the buyer pre-qualification script is not designed for you to reject them as buyers. We're not suggesting that. What it is designed to do is help you to differentiate between somebody who's an actual lead. The definition of lead is a decision-making adult that actually has the ability to transact
in a reasonable amount of time.
Exactly. And so what you guys a lot of times is a lead is anybody who basically gives you their name and the number of their email. That's not a lead. That's just something else.
No, and remember too, it's possible for buyer leads to be really, really motivated but not qualified. And it's also possible to talk to people that are highly qualified but not motivated to pull the trigger anytime soon.
So the Ethical Real Estate Professional definition of the lead is somebody that has reasonable expectations of what they can find in a home, doesn't have champagne taste with a beer budget, right? Is pre-approved, is not working with another agent. If they have a home to sell, the house is listed with you, has a realistic time frame, the whole thing. We want you to really learn that a real lead is just as powerful as a great listing, because that person has a high probability of actually transacting. But you're going to have to learn to pre-qualify at a very high level. And by the way, at the top of our buyer pre-qualification scripts, and Julie alluded to this, is also teaching you guys how to pull out those buyers that show up in your life that actually also have homes to sell. They're, essentially, Julie said, it's like the third question. By the way, Mr. Buyer, which home in the neighborhood are you thinking about selling, right? And then you'll discover that a lot of the buyers, especially when the listing is new, if you're getting listing calls off a new listing, those are almost always sellers looking to comp their house. Julie, point number 4, send your pre-buyer appointment package before your meeting. Yes. That is absolutely critical. So this is going to be something that's going to be exclusively available to Ethical Real Estate Professional agents. It is a 19-page presentation which sells your value, articulates your value for you, so you don't have to do it. You will not have to worry about how to sell you as an exclusive buyer agent to that buyer, whether it be somebody you know or a new person in your life. You will be able to send this package to them ahead of time. It's going to answer all the questions about why they should be working exclusively with you, what you're going to do to help them find a home. It's going to have lots and lots, and we talked about these over the past couple podcasts, of unique selling propositions, things that are only available because you are an Ethical Real Estate Professional agent. Make sure you go over to the website and look, but do get on the list, because this package in itself is the heart of the Ethical Real Estate Professional designation. It is going to be the thing that is going to solve all of your problems when it comes to how to get the exclusive signed. We have made this package for you so you can give that to prospective buyers. And it is, after you pre-qualify them, you don't want to get this out willy-nilly, and it is going to pre-sell you on them on you, so you don't have to worry about it when you actually finally meet with them to get the buyer agency paperwork signed. The way you guys are going about it now, where you're just sending over the paperwork, hoping and praying it's going to get signed, is not going to work. And I want to harken back to what we were talking about before. What we have done is formalize the buyer process, just like the formalization of the listing process that we've been teaching you guys for 20 years. It's the same basic process. Those of you who have been with us for a long time, a lot of this sounds familiar because it's the same process, but you can't skip a step. or you can't go back and, like, for example, go show a house to a buyer, put the buyer in contract. Oh, now you got to go get the exclusive signed. I mean, that's the kind of, harebrained stuff you guys are thinking is going to work. It's not. You guys got to follow the process. It's all laid out for you on EREP. So make sure you text the word buyer to 47372. Julie, point number 5, present your buyer presentation.
Yes, which is 5,000 times easier after you've sent the previous point, your pre-buyer appointment package.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. You're going to send the presentation. You're going to then meet with the buyer, and you're going to be meeting with the buyer, going over any questions they might still have about the pages that are in the presentation. By the way, it's also available digitally, but we want you to ideally give it to them in a paper version as often as possible. It's a lot classier of an experience.
Yes.
And then when you meet with them, answer any lingering questions they might have, and we teach you what to say. Mr. Buyer, at this point, when I'm meeting with folks at the office or at Starbucks, 99% of the time, they've had all their questions answered from the presentation, and they're ready to move forward with me as their exclusive buyer's agent. Do you happen to have any other lingering questions? And when they have received it and they have read it, they will not have any lingering questions, and you'll be shocked how frequently they will just sign it. It is similar to our listing process. Okay,
Yes.
So that is very simple, guys. If you follow the steps, if you skip a step, don't be surprised if they're not even meeting with you in the first place, let alone signing anything with you, right?
Yes.
Now, there's other steps we give you when you meet with them for the first time, but the gist of it is you're supposed to get the contracts, the exclusive sign when you meet with them, state agency sign, and a buyer net sheet, but we teach you how to do that in an EREP, which is Ethical Real Estate Professional. Point number 5, Julie, and they may have done this as part of point number 4 too. Mm-hmm. You might be getting the paperwork signed at the same time you're going to start showing them homes, but
That's right. So it's time to schedule showings, assuming that they're ready and they made it through your pre-qualification and they met with you for the presentation. They've got your pre-presentation packet that answered all of their objections. Now it's time to go show houses, schedule showings, or if they've got some things to do, they are serious but they're not quite ready, then you can create a task list. But set up showings if they're ready. If not, help them, like meeting with an accountant, with a lender, getting their lender letter in order, all these things.
Stuff should have been done before you met with them.
Should
It's
have.
part of the pre-qualification. But so as far as this goes, you're going to be, when you're working with them for the first time, we're going to be giving you exact scripts what to say so that they frankly don't want to see every house that's for sale. You have honed in. It's all the things we're going to be teaching you in Ethical Real Estate Professional.
The 3 times out script, the floor model script, all of those things are included.
Right. So we're going to be teaching you how to efficiently work with a buyer. So generally speaking, you're going to have to take them out no more than 2 times and show them no more than 2 or 3 houses per trip. Usually 5 houses total, if there's even that many available, and then they're going to be making their buying decision. That's what we're going to teach you as part of being an Ethical Real Estate Professional agent. That's all part of that process. You do not let the buyer be in control of what they're going to see and how they're going to see it, or they're not going to put value on you. It's be like going to a doctor and having some health problem, and then the doctor just standing there scratching his head as you tell him what you want him to prescribe. You guys
Right.
get the
The
point?
doctor looks at you and says, what would you like to do? What do you think we should do? No, the other way around. You've got to be in control. And here's the thing. Wouldn't you agree, Tim, that buyers that are really serious, that are qualified, that are motivated, they want to buy. They want you to lead them, don't they?
That's a really good point, Julie, but think about this. After you've pre-qualified them, after they've answered all the questions, after they've proven their ability to finance, and let's assume they've got 90% of their financing done,
Yep.
After they've met with you, after they've signed, you guys get the steps here? They are going to buy a damn house.
Probably real quick.
That is a high propensity buyer, okay? That is a high value buyer.
In other words, the buyers that you want to be working with, but you're now treating the process so much more professionally with your 8-step actual system.
That's right.
Okay, so number 6 becomes easier after you've done steps 1 through 5.
And this is assuming you found them a house, which you will.
Negotiate and go pending. Actively negotiate on your buyer's behalf when they're ready to make an offer. Use your expertise to secure the best possible terms and make the deal pending. Keep your buyers informed at every stage of the negotiation. They're going to be very confident in you when they see you fighting for the best deal, especially after you have already, guess what, articulated all of that value. They're going to completely trust you through that negotiation, and they're going to be pending soon.
That's right. And the rest of the stuff, be honest with you, point number 7, close the deal. On the buyer side, and we're going to teach you guys how to essentially avoid the pitfalls. There's a lot of, I think, pitfalls that can happen in the closing of a transaction because of home inspections, because of maybe appraisal issues, things that happen in a transitioning market like what we're experiencing. It will require a higher level of skill, and we're going to teach you that in Ethical Real Estate Professional. But again, at the end of the day, I would say 90% of the time, when you're in contract, after they've been completely approved for financing, assuming the house appraises and there's no major inspection issues, the closing process is pretty much automated nowadays. And there's a lot of really cool AI that essentially makes it the process, frankly, almost hands-free, hands-off. But to Julie's point, when you're in that process, whether you've delegated to a human or AI, make sure you're staying in contact with that buyer throughout the transaction. That's what they're going to remember. They're going to remember how they're going to associate your caring and professionalism with how much you communicated with them when they were feeling potential stress. And it's really important that you do that. So call them every Friday, check in with them, look at the file, make sure everything's on track, congratulate them, 5 days till closing, all that sort of thing. Maybe some reminders of the things they're supposed to be doing, if you got the appliances set up and whatever. And then as you get closer to the closing, then you can start asking for referrals. By the way, who do you know is thinking about buying or selling real estate in this market that I should be helping?
Well, so that brings us back to our topic, right? Use a process. You're articulating your value from the second you answered the phone in the first place when they're just a lead, or maybe you furiously fast follow-up, until they're actually closing and beyond. That's the process.
Listen to what Julie just said. You're articulating your value by how you showed up in their lives. As a lead, you called them back right away. Your furiously fast lead follow-up is actually articulating your value to them as a professional.
From the get-go.
From the get. That's the whole point of our system. That's what we're going to teach you guys to do. And it's really basics. A lot of it's behavioral, but a lot of it's knowing what to say and how to say it. And frankly, there's so much garbage that's happened in the industry in the last 15 years that is overcomplicated to a level that I would have ever imagined, about all these made up rules. Oh, when someone texts you, only text them back.
Yeah.
All these other things, right? There's so much added noise that's entered into this channel that it's very confusing. And I understand why some of you guys are scratching your head. But here's the big takeaway. There is a process you can follow. You can, which point number 8, by the way, is lather, rinse, and repeat. Keep doing this over and over again. There is a process you can follow. There are proven ways to generate the leads. There's a proven script that you can use to pre-qualify the leads. Our presentation is right there that you can use it and, continue forward. This is not something you have to create. This is not something that you have to learn the hard way, which you should have done the first time correctly. But really what you got to understand is the days of being able to work with buyers without exclusive buyer agency contracts signed ended about 90 days ago. And you've got to wake up to the fact that it's not going to go back. And I know some of your brokers and your office managers and all these other folks, they're not yet, frankly, beating the drum, telling you how urgent this is. And unfortunately, they and you will find out the hard way when you don't get paid. It's already happening. So you must put a stop to that in your own life by learning how to be, frankly, a professional that the market now demands of you. We said this at the top of the podcast, but I'm going to remind you. Julie did a search on AI, asking AI to search all the top search engines, Google, Bing, all the rest, what the top search term was that consumers are using when searching about residential real estate. Number 1 was?
Do I have to pay a buyer's agent?
And number 2 was?
Who pays the buyer's agent?
Okay, so if you don't think that's going to come up in your life with a buyer very soon.
It's not because we say so. It's because that's what's happening out there.
Yeah, and look, this is an advantage to you if you're willing to stop fighting it emotionally and learn the new skills to have exclusive signed. And you're going to, look, we know, human nature is to basically avoid anything that remotely feels like conflict. Asking a buyer to sign an exclusive buyer agency contract definitely feels a heck of a lot like conflict, especially if you've never had to do it before. The ethical real estate professional designees using our presentation will not experience that conflict because the presentation will do the heavy lifting for them. Isn't that what you want in your life?
Well, think about how relieved you'll feel that you have a process and that it works. Pretty much every other professional business that you deal with has a process. Tim mentioned when you go to a doctor, you don't even get to see the doctor until they've seen your insurance card, right? You don't get to see the doctor till you've seen the nurse. The nurse doesn't turn you over to the doctor until she's had some questions answered. What are your symptoms? How long has it been going on? All of these things, right? Of course you would be stressed if you walked into that same doctor and they're like, all right, come on in. Let's talk about a few things that might work. And by the way, you got to sign this because that's required by your insurance company. You'd be like, what kind of quack am I meeting with, right? So think about how relieved and how peaceful your buyer sides are going to go when you're not just following the process for you and for the buyer, but also keeping yourself compliant, keeping your broker compliant, not living in fear of somebody looking over your shoulder and having to go clean up the paperwork later. That's not a plan. And, some of you guys need this immediately because the way you have been doing it or trying to do it by shooting over the required forms and saying, you got to sign this before I show you the first house, that's not working out for you. They're ghosting you because you did it that way. That's not a plan. We want you to have peace on the buyer side.
How about these lazy hacks where they say, I'll just get one-time showing agreement signed for every house
Forever.
I sign?
Yeah.
I mean, come on. What are you guys doing?
That's not sustainable.
No, it's crazy. Just get the skills. And look, Julie and I have been coaching and training for long enough to know that 99.9% of you do not want anything in your life that remotely resembles conflict, which makes sense. This is what the ethical real estate professional designees will experience is no conflict, because the actual presentation in the designation removes the conflict. You got to think about this from the buyer's perspective. They don't want conflict with you. Nope. They don't want to have to ask you about commissions. They don't want to have to ask you what they're going to, how do they fire you if you are terrible? They don't want to ask about all these things. They don't want to ask what you're doing to find them a home. They don't want to have anything that resembles conflict any more than you do.
Moving is stressful enough for them.
Exactly. Your job is to remove the conflict. By sending the presentation prior to the meeting after you pre-qualified them, you have removed the conflict. You will look professional. You will feel professional. You will walk into any room as an ethical real estate professional agent, and immediately you're going to be, frankly, operating on a different level because you're not going to be nervous about all the other things that all the other agents are. In the market that you're in now and really going to be into next year, the buyers are going to start interviewing buyers agents just like listings have been, sellers have interviewed multiple listing agents forever. You might have an angle because it's your mom who's selling her house, but she's probably shopping you against the local expert in her market or who she perceives to be, right? That same thing is going to happen with buyer agency. So the idea that you're just going to be able to pick up a buyer because you know them from the gym, you still will. That will happen, but you're going to have to get them to sign an exclusive contract. How are you going to do it? Because they like you? Okay, I like you too. You're a great person. But you're asking me to pay you $30,000 on that $1 million house that I'm going to buy with or without you? I must like you a lot to sign that bad boy. So you need to articulate your value and show them exactly why they would want to sign with you. And that's what Ethical Real Estate Professional is all about. Check out the website. Let us know what you think, ethicalrealestateprofessional.com. But in the meantime, you absolutely positively want to text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. Text the word buyer, B-U-Y-E-R, to 47372. That's how you get on the interest list to be invited to the launch event. We're only going to make 2,500 ethical real estate professional exclusive buyer agent designations available ever. So if once 2,500 are gone, that's all there's going to be. That's it. It's 2,500. Why? Because we want this to be the most desirable exclusive designation the industry has ever seen, and that is what we will do. So in the meantime, please do share this podcast with many other agents as you'd like. Oh, notes. If you want the notes from today's show, you have to subscribe to our free newsletter, which is harrisrealestatedaily.com. harrisrealestatedaily.com. Just hop over there, drop your email into the little bar there. And remember, when you do, you got to go over to your own email and confirm that you want the newsletter. And when you do, you'll receive our notes as well as that day's podcast and a lot of other exclusive content. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, and we'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.